Okay, guys, today we'll be interviewing an author who's also into the law of attraction. Michael, can you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Of course, it's nice to meet you, Johnny. My name is Michael Nulty, and I'm probably a new author. I started writing about 3 years ago after my own life took a bit of a U-turn and started writing. And I've now published I have just published my second book, and this is my profession now in terms of writing and talking about mental health, well-being, law of attraction, everything that sort of like comprises in how do we live our life better and how do we create a better life for ourselves. That's the ethos of everything I do now.
Yes, thank you so much for that intro.
You're welcome.
I've been interested in law of attraction ever since I woke up to the spiritual awakening. I want to be able to impact this special education because I was in the special education, and I want to be able to change the way that we think about the law of attraction. Because there's too many people that are suffering. Now, how did you begin your journey through the law of attraction?
I came in contact with the law of attraction a long time ago, probably before you were born, in 92, 93. So a long time ago. And it was long before The Secret came out and before it became a popular thing. And it was it was the concept of the law of attraction that it was actually through buying my first Louise Hay book, You Can Heal Your Life, that she introduced me to Abraham Hicks, who are the foremost authority on law of attraction. And I loved the concept that if I could change my thinking, I could change my life. That to me resonated with me, like alarm bells. It was a really aha moment for me. At the time, I actually was living in New Zealand, and I was going through quite a troublesome time in my own life, and I didn't really know how I could maneuver out of that or go forward. But that idea and that concept that if I could change my thinking, I could change my life, sort of led me to a path of understanding the law of attraction, how the law of attraction could allow me and enable me to change my life. And obviously it wasn't that simple by just changing your thinking, you change your life. There were a lot of other components, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But that's where I started with the law of attraction back in 1993.
Yes, that's pretty cool. Like when I hear that, that's like you told me like, oh, before you were, I was like, wow, that's
Yes, yes. I've been at it a long time. I did a podcast recently with a gentleman called Brian Falchuk, who works in New York. And again, he wrote a book called Do a Day, which is a fantastic book. And during the podcast, he was saying, why haven't you? What's changed this time around? And I said, I actually get it. I get it this time round, listening to years of experience, the fact that sometimes you're not ready to hear the message fully about how life works and the components of life. And although I understood quite a lot of them, and I definitely understood how to use the law of attraction to propel my own professional career, which was hugely successful, I really didn't get it at a core level. And sort of like I got that over the last couple of years, and now I'm sort of ready to share that I suppose that epiphany and that result with the rest of the world.
that's really powerful. And as a law of attraction enthusiast for it, I also want to positive for the law of attraction community because oftentimes we talk about it, but we never took the act. One of the greatest thing that I could ever done is to be able to take action on my career. I interviewed many authors, but one of the authors that helped me was Michael Lozier. He helped
Okay.
me to, yes, and I wanted to interview him, and I think it was either Friday. He told me that the interview I wanted wasn't perfect. It was a minute fit, kind of. He told himself he snapped at me too, and I was afraid, but we got to take action on a dream. I think that too much people are struggling. How can the law of attraction community to be able to take the action on the dream? Because most of the time I tell my story that a lot of people get pissed at when people get offended on the law of attraction. Like if you try to say something that they don't agree with. But can
Yeah, I think although The Secret, when it came out, created a great platform for people to, I think, reach out for something that was in the world that existed. But I think the idea that you can go out and ask for something and it's going to, magically materialize in your life within 24 hours, that's some form of magic. And although magic does exist in the world, it doesn't exist to that degree. And I think I know a lot of my friends, when I talk about the law of attraction, I talk about the law of attraction is not separate to you. If you're not working and your life is not working, the law of attraction is just responding to you. It's not something that's outside of you. It's not something that is vindictive. It doesn't have an agenda. It is literally just responding to what's called your vibration, and which are really a combination of your thoughts, your emotions, and the words you say and the feelings that you have. It responds to not what you say you want, but how you mean and what you mean by what you say you want. So if you say, I'd like a pile of money, the law of attraction doesn't respond to those words because those words are quite weak in terms of vibration. What is strong in terms of vibration is the fact that maybe you have an underlining belief about money that supports a lack of money in your life. So therefore, your vibration or your feelings about that and the unconscious um, thoughts about that are all about scarcity and lack. That's what the universe is responding to. It's responding to the overall um, conversation you're having. So if you're having a conversation with I'd like more money, but you're also having a conversation underneath that I don't have any money, it picks up the dominant vibration, whichever one is more dominant. So that's why I'm saying the fact that if you're not working and you're not in alignment with what you want, therefore the law of attraction is going to respond to whatever is the most dominant. So it doesn't look at you and think, well, got it in for you today, Michael. It doesn't work that way. It responds to you and you alone. So I always recommend people forget about the law of attraction. Don't get hung up on the law of attraction. Get hung up in yourself. Get hung up in terms of what am I thinking about? What am I doing in my life? What actions am I taking? How am I behaving? Because it's going to respond to those. It's responding to your thoughts. It's responding to how you feel about things. It's responding to the conversations you're having about yourself. We spend so much time in our own head and we're in this theater of one, listening to everything that's going on, even though we don't think we are a witness to every thought we have every day. And there are the two powers in our life. And I talk about the fact that you have your thoughts and you have your belief. You have what you think about, and then what that thinking has caused you to believe. Because literally that's what a belief is. It's just a thought that you have said over and over and over and over again that now it becomes a belief. But that belief is the item and the energy that drives the law of attraction. If you don't believe you can make money, you're not going to do it. I was on a talk. I was doing some traveling over the last couple of weeks, and I was doing a talk with a group of millennials like yourself, and 21. They've started in a corporate career. I was with a company called Product Market in Dublin, Ireland, and one of the conversations was, we spoke about the law of attraction as part of a mindset, and one of the questions was, well, the fact that if I say that I want to be, I introduced them to an acronym called YTABA, which I discovered many years ago. And YTABA is what you think about, you bring about. And it's something, the fact that if you think about something and you think about it with enough energy and effort, that you can bring about that manifestation into your life. And the law of attraction came into that conversation with this group. And one guy turned around and said the fact, well, I want to make £1 million in the next, $1 million in the next 3 weeks. And I said, well, do you believe that's possible? And he said, no. And I said, well, then you're not going to do it. I said the fact that to somebody who believes that making $1 million in 3 weeks is possible, They do that. Many people in the world today make millions every day because it's part of their DNA. But I said the fact that take that principle and apply it to something in your own life that you know is possible, that you have the mindset around that I can do this in the next 3 weeks. Now the law of attraction can go along with you and work with you on that journey. But if you do not believe it, you will never see it. And people work on the opposite. They want to see it and then they believe it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
Yes, that is so powerful. I was sitting there, I was tapping into my vibration world. Yeah, that's powerful. Oh, that was like when a lot of millennials have we grew up with technology. You know, I was it's hard to get away from the technology. I my mom I live in a very traditional way of thinking of life, and that's the way that usually people think really strict, and I often think that it doesn't really. It's like the same thing as law of attraction. Like, if you restrict the thing that you want to, the mind, right? The limit. If you put the limitation on the mind, you can attract like really greater stuff. Now, for you, how did you get into that thought of believing in bigger stuff? Like the what is that?
How do you? So I think for me, at the age of 23 years of age, I attempted suicide 3 times. So I was at the lowest part in my own life that anyone could ever go. And September is Suicide Prevention Month in the US, and I'm a big advocate. So all across my social media for the next month, I'm pushing out, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. But I do understand that when you're contemplating suicide, you do feel the fact that it is the only option you have on the table, so you take it. So at the age of 23, that was the low point. And after failing once or twice, I sort of on the third time I didn't try, and I moved on and tried to change my life. And that's when I came in contact with Louise Hay. And I found in a store in Auckland, New Zealand, one of these little cards, these little sayings cards. I was drawn to this card. Now, this is part of how the law of attraction works, because when you set an intention, and that's the powerful word I use in any of my teachings, is about the intention of what you want as opposed to the goals that you're looking to achieve. What is the intention? And my intention at that time was to get better and to find a way forward. And I found with that intention, the law of attraction brought other things to me. It didn't make me better. It brought information to me that allowed me to move myself forward. And I found this little sayings card. To this day, I use this, and it was saying that reality is the product of your thoughts. What you believe will become true for you. And that saying has stuck with me for all of this time. This is back since 1992. And that started me thinking about, okay, the quality of the thoughts I have. What do I think about the most? And this is the work I think that most people don't want to do. They want, most people want, if they're feeling down, they want to feel better. They don't want to put the effort into getting better. And it takes a long time to recover from any type of a devastation in your life, whether that's a suicide or, a big loss, whatever it is. But, if you think about the fact that a thought itself is just information. It's what I call data. It's a memory. It's an insight. It's a concept. It's something about something that's going on in your life, and we tend to take the thought and information and act on the thought as opposed to acting on the problem. So I just sort of divide every situation into two parts. There is the problem, which I call, or the situation you're in, which is the fact. And then there is the thought about what's going on, which I call the fiction. Now, we get stuck in trying to sort out the fiction, and we leave the problem alone. And you can't sort out the fiction, because in the fiction, it's what's called cognitive distortion. And cognitive distortion is what's called it's a psychology term, which is called really mental traps. So we have acquired these ways of thinking that allows us to get stuck into the fiction. And I know when I was going through my own tough times, I won Oscars for my performance in the fiction role because I thought about every possible scenario that could go wrong in my life, how bad it was going to get. And that fiction and my great role as being the leading actor in that role, led me down to, taking my own life because I thought that that was the only possible. Now, if I had just looked at the facts, I would have been able to sort out the facts because facts just need awareness. They don't need the narrative that we add through the thought. But we get stuck in that whole thought process and we don't realize the fact that is I can think differently and I can believe differently. And that started me on, which is fundamentally the foundation for CBT. So if anybody's going through any type of therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, is the foundation, the fact that most of our problems arise from the response to a situation as opposed to the situation itself. 90%, they reckon, neuroscience has produced this evidence that 90% of the challenges and the difficulties and what I call the struggle we have in our life are originate from the fiction side of the problem. They're not actually from the problem itself, but we get stuck in there. And I think the best way, if you want to create new thoughts and new beliefs, you have to understand, what do I currently believe about something? Now, as I do this in a workshop, I say, not everything that you believe needs to be changed. A lot of what you have in your life is probably it's probably quite great, but your focus is on the lack of something. So if you have a great family life and you have a great partner and family and friends, your focus is probably not on them. Your focus is probably the things that are lacking. Maybe it's you've got a really bad job, or you've got a horrible boss, or maybe you've got no money in the bank. That's where your focus becomes. And your focus then becomes so disjointed, the fact that you're actually not talking about, I had this conversation with someone recently, and they were talking about, but I've no money. But I said, well, what's the fact? The fact is you have no money. So that's what you look at. That's what you look, how can I remedy getting more money into my life? Not the consequences of having no more money, because that's really very hard to challenge. How do you decide, what you do if you have thoughts about lack, and you have thoughts about abandonment, and you have thoughts about, the bank coming to take your house away, or you're going to lose your job, or your wife will leave you, or your kids will leave you, and you go into this what's called catastrophizing type of mind, or thinking. And whereas if you get out of that and you say, listen, okay, so I have no money, so my job today is to make some money. That's your job. And then you put your thinking into, how do I make money today? What can I do? What's my skills? And that's a much more positive place to start. But I always say the fact that to change your thoughts, change your beliefs, you have to examine the thoughts you have. So what do I think about all the time? Because of the 50 to 70,000 thoughts we have a day, which is again being, called up by neuroscience, is that 90% of those are just churn. They're just repetitive. They're the same thing we're repeating over and over and over again. So it's not as if you have 70,000 different thoughts. You might have 40,000 thoughts, or a stream of thinking around the same thing, which literally, is the definition of insanity, is that you try to use the same thinking to come up with a different outcome, and it doesn't work that way. So to change your beliefs, you change your thinking. You think about something and you start, I want to think about this in a different way. What can I offer about my money situation, or my financial situation, or my love life situation, or my housing, whatever the situation, in a different way that allows me to bring the law of attraction into that step forward. Because if you're moving forward and your intent is to have a better relationship with your finances, or with love in your life, then the law of attraction will bring you more opportunities. It will show up in your life to show you, have a look at this. Have you seen this? Have you seen that? But the key to the law of attraction working is based on a part of the base of your brain, and it's called your reticular activation system. I don't know whether you've ever heard of this before. It's called your RAS, which is short for reticular activation system, and it's about the size of your finger, and it is the filter for all of the data your senses bring into your mind every day. On average, your senses have roughly around 2 million pieces of data per minute to interpret. And so because they can only, your mind can only process 50 to about 40 to 50,000 pieces of data, a lot of it gets deleted. And it's deleted by this little piece of neurocells in the base of in the stem of your brain called your reticular activation system, or what I call is your gatekeeper. And it will delete 99.9% of the data coming in. It will only present to you for cognition, which is what you're now going to see and perceive about life, what you believe, what you value, and what's important to you. So whatever you've given an importance to in your life, you're going to see more evidence of that working. Now that is you. That's not outside of you. This is a psychological science driven thing. It's not, any new age type of thinking. This, if you go to any doctor, you Google RAS or reticular, they will tell you what this little piece of your brain does for you. And it's example, if you ever have been in a supermarket and someone calls your name, all of a sudden you turn around because your reticular activation system knows that you're Michael and your name is important to you. So you will tend to look when someone calls your name. I give people the, if they want to test this out, I said, look, go and pick a color, choose a color today and choose a color and say, you've got to give it importance, because if you don't give it importance, your reticular activation doesn't take that set. It's like changing the settings. It doesn't take that command. And if you say to yourself, well, I want to see the color yellow today or blue today, and then say, this is important for me to, and think about that and say, deliver an intent on that. It's important for me to see this today. You will be amazed at how much yellow you see. And it wasn't that the yellow didn't exist. The yellow did exist. It's just, it was in different forms of visibility and invisibility, depending on your perception and depending on how your RAS was set. And that's the way, when you buy a new car for the very first time, before you bought the car, you've never seen it before on the road. All of a sudden you buy it and you're on the road and everyone's driving the same car, same color. And you think, well, is there a conspiracy? That's just your reticular activation system showing you now something that's important to you. So I do, these are things that people can do today to prove to themselves that they have greater power in their lives than they ever thought possible. And there are forces in their life going on, like the law of attraction, that's responding to you. But if you get you right, well, then everything else happens, the way it is. And a testament to that is writing my first book. When I wrote my first book, people, I get questions all the time, how did you write a book? And I'm thinking, literally the law of attraction helped me write my book. I set an intent, I wanted to write a book. And from that moment, I started to see advertisement for book webinars, book clubs, how to write a book, just stuff kept showing up. The chapters that I signed up to at the very start were the ones I carried forward. My problem wasn't writing the book. It was actually, at the time, I had sort of like my own bit of a crisis back in 2015 when I changed my own life, and it didn't go according to plan. I had to deal with my depression again, possible suicide, and difficulties in my own life, and at the age of 50. And so the book was the manifestation saying, this is your new journey, this is a new realization for you. And writing the book for me, my first book, was a way of me being able to change my life, but also showing other people that this is how you do it. There is a recipe to success. There's a recipe to living better. Not everyone is going to be a millionaire. Not everyone is destined to be Lady Gaga. Not everyone is destined to be a Madonna. Not everyone's destined to be. No one is destined to be you. But we're all destined to do good things in our life. And it's trying to find, but what is that good thing? What is my purpose and meaning in my life? And moving on from that. I'm very passionate when I get onto certain subjects, like, you have to say, you give me a little bell to say, stop talking now, Michael.
I love it. I love when we're on a certain, they call it, you always hear Will Smith, because I love Will Smith because he promotes law of attraction. But
Yeah.
You know, I know because people watch always Law of Attraction on YouTube, and he's like, you know, The Alchemist, because I still have The Alchemist. It was great, but I was sitting there, I was like, my God, this guy has like loads of information that helped so many Law of Attraction people that who were struggling day to day, or like that. You know, you are just like me, right? I almost wanted to die, like suicide, because of during 2011, I had my heart broken, you
Yeah.
know, and I went through the I don't know if you heard the Dark Night of the Soul. Right?
Yeah.
I wanted to like say what's happening, why I cursed God, and I never actually told this anyone. I want everything to burn.
Yeah.
I questioned life. I was lost because I was listening to one of my friends. I disagree with him. He said by the time that you're no, I was lost. I didn't know what to do. And so I was going through that stage. 2013, I found um, information, the law of attraction. You can basically manifest what you want, right? Just by the
Yeah.
how do you manifest? Do you write it down, or do you write like your goals, or you set like a vision board? What do you do?
I think for me, it is about, you know, I think I come from a corporate world. So prior to 2004, prior to 2015, when I decided to change my life, I had 25 years of hugely successful corporate career. So I was head of marketing for Dell Computers in the UK. I was MD. I was head of sales for a huge multi-global company. So success and money and wealth were something that I went after. And I used the law of attraction to help me because I'm saying, well, actually, I want more money. I believe it can make it. And I know the law of attraction is going to respond to that because I was in alignment with that. But there came a point where I wanted something more, and I wanted more than just that material side of life. And but when I decided to change that mix, my identity was so wrapped up in who I was then. My self-worth was so wrapped up in my identity with my work and my profession and my successes that when I stripped that away, I was actually left with nothing, which caused me to, you know, really fall low. And after I invested, you know, a lot of money in a business, and it all collapsed, I was left with nothing. You know, I was left by myself, and I had banks ringing, looking for, you know, to foreclose on my house. So this is only, you know, back in the middle of 2015. I turned 50 in the May of that year. So I get how life can hit you hard. And it hit me harder because I thought I was doing all the right things. I believed in the law of attraction. And I became very anti the law of attraction because I said, how could you bring all this crap to my door? And then I realized about, well, it didn't, I did. You know, I did by getting involved in with the fictitious side of what was going on in my life, as opposed to just sorting through the trouble. Um, but I think the fact that you manifest by first of all starting to, what is it that I want? Because a lot of things a lot of people are confused about is, and the law of attraction brings them more confusion, is because they're unclear about what it is that they want. They either don't want to ask for what they want because they may feel the fact that it's too materialistic, or they want to be very humane by saying, well, I'd like to save the world, or, you know, feed whales, or they want to do some humanitarian thing. So the law of attraction is responding to you. And I always suggest, you don't need to tell and share with the world what you want. That's yours. You know, do it for yourself. But don't talk in opposition to what it is that you want. Get a piece of paper and start and get a pad. And I do mine in sort of like, I do mine in this little old thing, and I've got loads of stuff here, affirmations that I write. I don't know if you can see that through on thing. I write here in stuff that I want to, literally things that I want to get out of my head. So if I sit down and say, you know, what is it that I want in my life? And then once I'm clear on what that is, I set that as an intention. And the intention is so much better than a goal, or because there's a difference between a goal. A goal is a future thing. It's something in the future. So you think, I want more money, or I want a new lover, or I want to feel better. And a goal is something that's outside of yourself. So it's something that I will be there, or I will get to that point in the next 3 months, 6 months, 6 years, or never. An intention is how I want to show up today in the world. How do I want to show up in the world today? And what do I intend on doing? And one of the things that people always ask me on mental health forums, and I work with the Mental Health Foundation in the States, is that how did I get out of depression? And one of those things was intent, because my intention was to get better and not be bitter. Not be bitter about everything that I had lost and everything had gone wrong, because it would have been very easy for me to get stuck in that past. I also didn't want to seek refuge in the future, because it's very easy to get into the future and think, well, life will be a little better when I get to that point, or I get that money back, or I get that job, or I get that book sold. That's futuristic, and there are certain parts of visualization which are very important to do. But when you're living your life and living with intent, it is living in the now. And Eckhart Tolle talks about that in terms of the power of now. And that is where you decide in terms of, in this moment, in terms of, what do I want in my life? In this moment, just choose this moment. What do I want in my life? And that's where you start. And you put an intent around that. I want to be better today. For me, it was about, I want to feel better in my life, and I want to enjoy my life. I want to experience today. I want to be more present. And so they're my intentions. Now, if you want to use the law of attraction and you say to yourself, well, I want to have a new job, or I want a new boyfriend, or I want a new girlfriend, or I want, more money in my bank account. You have to start in terms of, how do you feel about that? And get this down on a piece of paper. Start writing it down. Get it out of your head. Don't be thinking about it. Get it out of your. How do you feel about money? How do you feel about relationships? How do you feel about work? And then you start to think about, okay, well, why do I have these feelings? Because remember, the law of attraction is going to respond to whatever you are offering as an intention, or an emotion, or a feeling about those things. So if you don't get them down on paper, the universe is picking them up. It's like a UPS. It's picking them up. It's delivering to you all the time. It's just, it's not delivering what you want. You say, I didn't order that. I didn't order that. I didn't order a bill. I didn't order that. That bad relationship. I didn't order those small, snide remarks from people in the office. But it's constantly responding to you. So if you see stuff turning up into your life that you don't want, ask yourself, why did I send that to myself? Because you sent it to yourself. If something is turning up in your life over and over again, somewhere along the line, you're contributing to that. And you have to start by writing it down, and making notes about, what am I doing that I want? So if you choose one subject, and I'm happy to share a PDF with you that I give out to sometimes people to help them put some things in order. So the key to aligning up, getting your life in alignment, is really knowing what's important to you. What do you value in your life? So you may decide that freedom is important to you, but the fact that you may have a goal for more money. Now, the actions between, important, which is the value of freedom, the more money, which is the goal you have, the actions are going to be very confusing, because the actions you're going to now take in place are disaligned, because you may need to take a job that takes your freedom away from you, because you may not be able to have a part-time job. You may need to take a job that works 70 hours, because that's going to yield more income. Now, one has to change, because everything in between is going to be confused. I want to be free, but you have a job that's going to employ you for 70 hours a week. That's not freedom for you. Freedom could be the fact that I'm in a prison and I want freedom. So the goal is, I want to be free, I'm in prison, and what are my actions in between? So the idea is the fact that is, make sure that your values, what's important in your life, and the goals you're setting are aligned. Now, the good thing is you can change either of those. You can change your values, you can change your goals, but you need to make sure that they're in line, because the work you do in between has to align, and that's where you have to align. It's like starting off to write a book about science fiction, and just then saying, I want to finish a book about science fiction, and then you write only about love affairs. Completely too, you're going to write a book, but your book is going to be a completely different book than you set out to, because your value, your goal was, science fiction. This is a book of science fiction, but your values obviously are pouring out, and your actions are about, the love and things in your life. So for people looking in today, if they want to use the law of attraction in their life, start small. People start with the big things, and it just gets them, and it just trips them up. They start with, and everyone starts with money, because money touches everything in our life. If you have no money, it's very hard to live in a very material world. So they start off with, I want more money, I want more money, I want more money, without actually looking at in terms of, am I grateful for the money I do have? What do I actually have in my life? And I talk to you, what is in your life at the moment that is working? And I know I was talking to someone recently, they said absolutely nothing. I hate my job, and I don't like the people I work with, and a list of things that they didn't like. And I'm saying, so does your company pay your salary? They do. And I said, do you like getting the paycheck at the end of the month? I do. I said, well, there's two things now that you like. They pay you. You like receiving it. But because people's focus are on the opposite, and I think the fact that what catches people up is the fact that when they go big, they go into trouble. So start small. Practice using the law of attraction to believe that the law of attraction works, because it's not something that's not working today and working tomorrow. It's a universal law. It's like gravity. You don't throw a ball up and expect it not to come back and hit you. You throw it up, and the fact that that's going to come down. The further I throw it up, the slower it's going to come down, but it is going to come down. So the law of attraction is exactly the same way. It works. It doesn't work on some days and not work on another. So when your life is going well, law of attraction, no, it's you. The law of attraction is responding to you. So start small, and start with, what is it that you want? Get very clear on what you want. And so you decide, I want to be a millionaire. If that's what you want, or I want to be a writer, or I want to be in a relationship, then you start the work in terms of, what do I think about relationships? What do I believe about relationships? What do I feel about relationships? How do I talk about other people's relationships? Because this is what's called your vibration. And your vibration is the overall combination of the energy that you send and that the universe picks up on. So that's when you start. Be clear on what you want. So clarify what it is you want. Define it for yourself in terms of, what does more money look like to me? So more money to me may be $1,000. To somebody else, it could be $1 million. So define what more is to you, because everything in life exists on a continuum from more or less. So more of something is better than less of something. So you may not get to being a millionaire, but more of thousands of dollars is better than less than thousands of dollars. So everything exists on a continuum, and you have to decide, where are you in relation to being positive or negative in terms of relationships, in terms of money. Are you more negative towards the thinking of money? Are you more positive? Do you expect to get paid? You do. Do you expect money to come into your life in different ways, or do you expect money just to come through your salary? So if you have an expectation that money only comes through your salary, well, don't be disappointed. Don't be disappointed if it doesn't turn up in another way, because your expectation is what your dominant vibration is. That's how money is going to only come to you. If you think, and this is an old affirmation from Louise Hay that I said for years and years and years, and it's the fact that money comes to me from all avenues easily and effortlessly. And Louise Hay was obviously the queen of affirmations. And I said that, I must have said that 1 trillion times over the years. And I still say today, it still comes out of when I actually talk about money, that's my dominant vibration. Money comes to me from all avenues, easily and effortlessly. I don't have to work hard for it. But you may have a belief that money has to come with lots of effort. And if that's your belief, well, then if you're not putting in the effort, the money's not coming. But it all goes down to, what are you thinking about that thing you're trying to achieve? Whatever it is that you're trying to achieve in your life, be honest with yourself. You know, you can lie to everybody else, but you can't lie to yourself. If you are not seeing evidence of more money coming into your life, and you have put that as a goal or as an intention, there's something about what you're offering that's disconnected from what you believe and what you think about. So you cannot, if you want more money in your life, you cannot look at somebody else and think that they've more than you. Because what you're really saying is that they have it all, I should have half of theirs. You have to be happy. And this is the hardest thing about even anything in life. You have to want well for everybody else, because that means that you're on a level in your mindset, the fact that there's enough for everybody. And that's the hard, and the other part of that is accepting that you have no money, accepting that I am where I am, and making peace with that. Because if you can't make peace with where you are, you will never move forward. If you can't accept that I'm in this bad place today, doesn't mean that you like it. It means accepting that my financial situation is not great, but I know the fact that it will get better at some stage. But accepting that where you are, or my love life at the moment is, it doesn't exist, but I know the fact that I'm a lovable person. Starting and accepting where you are, and not wanting to be somewhere that you're not, because most of our effort goes into, as I said, our mind likes to seek refuge in the future. Our mind will want to go, well, actually next week I'll be able to get this, or the month after I'll be able to get that. It is the now that is the power. And if you're not in the present moment, you're allowing the past or the future to decide what happens. You're missing out if you're not in the present on creating the tomorrow that you want, because everything really is the present. When tomorrow gets here, it's not called tomorrow, it's called the present. It's called now. So everything is the now. So, if you push things out for, I'll deal with that problem tomorrow, it does become today's problem. And so therefore we don't have to move forward with that. But start out slowly. Start and prove to yourself that this works. Just do as an experiment for a month. Use your reticular activation system. Say, listen, I want to see more evidence of how to build whatever it is in my life. And it's important for you to set your reticular activation system to the coordinates of what you're trying to find. So if you're looking for whatever it is, more love, more money, more whatever it is in your life, set that as a value for yourself, and then you'll start to see that showing up in your life. Now, if you want to apply the law of attraction, you now start to think about that in a more powerful way. Abraham Hicks talks about the holding on to an energy thought for roughly about 50 to 60 seconds is a time that they have used to create more energy around something. I don't know whether you've explained to your listeners, to your viewers, about the law of attraction, where that universal law comes from, because I know I've spoken a little bit about energy and vibrating energy, and why the law of attraction responds to vibration as opposed to just words. You want me to explain that?
Well, before we talk about the energy and where it comes from, because I have lots of because I want to dissect. Because a lot of listener are, since I'm a millennial, I could care less for a lot of things that adult.
I've come from a work group just with you guys. I get it.
But the reason why is because people push me, because I'm a special education. When I was a kid, I thought I was made fun of, when I was a kid, and we were pushed in this, like you said, come in the corporate world.
Yeah.
And folks care about money, cars, house, right? But when I was a kid, I love fun, and we get pushed in this world as we grow older. People expect you to get married,
yes,
to have a car, to have success. I get that.
Yes.
But I believe that the law of attraction, if we truly believe in the law of attraction, shouldn't it be able to attract not only the thing that we want, but not the material? It's like as if people believe that the material things that people possess is success, right? But it's I know that people think like because I come from a background that people my mom like things, and I do believe in things, but I think that people invest in the wrong things. And like for example, books,
Yeah,
right? Books are amazing. Um, so my point was like if you don't accumulate a lot of things, you're not successful. That's in my mind right now because in the most often time in the law of attraction videos, they always talk about that. I get that because they're adults. And I'm adult too, but if law of attraction is proven for us, then it should be able to create the life that we want. That's because I get tired of all the rules of law of attraction. That's why I interview law of attraction people. It makes a difference.
so the question was a bit the interference was a bit much. So what was the question again? So the law of attraction, a lot of people use and talk about the law of attraction. It's mostly linked to financial,
Right,
material world, and
right.
so
Because
when I do a lot of my talks, I tend to talk about well-being in terms of how well are you, good health, things that are important to you in your life, and the financial stuff is the fact that most people use that because they feel the fact that if I have more money, I will be happier. Unfortunately, that doesn't work that way, because if that was the case, most people who are wealthy would be deliriously happy, and those who are unwealthy and poor would be very sad. So there's a disconnect between that. I think the fact that it's just linked because most people want a get rich quick scheme. So I think the fact the law of attraction comes, oh, well, I should get into the law of attraction, and just think about $1 million and you wake up tomorrow, it'll be in your bank account. And then of course they think about the law of it, they think about all this money, and they open their bank account the next day and there's no money there, and they think, well, that bloody doesn't work. And that's why I say to people, if you want to use the law of attraction, uh, and use is the wrong word, harness the power of the law of attraction, because it's working in your life whether you like it or not, whether you know it exists or not. It's working. It's like gravity is keeping you down. The fact that you go into outer space, gravity doesn't exist, you're going to take off. So you don't question whether gravity is existing at the moment, because you accept that it is. So for me, if somebody doesn't want to believe the law of attraction and universal laws, and that's fine for them. Don't believe that. Believe what you want to believe, and then act on that belief, because that's how every universal law works on. But I'm saying, start off the things that are important. What is important to you in your life? And I guarantee when you get down to looking at what's important to you, there's this value exercise I tend to do with people, and there's roughly an average about 400 to 500 values that exist in the world, and it can be things like, yeah,
right,
and because if I said to you, Johnny, give me your 10 top values.
okay. My top value, if I can, it got
You'd probably give me a couple. So give me three.
okay. Three. I believe that anything is possible, but it got to be persistent. That's how I get the energy.
So
Uh,
so what's number one? So what is the most important thing? So value really is important, because if you don't know what's important, how do you know you don't already have it?
hmm, that's a good question. So what is my?
What is
Well, I
important?
want to be kind to people because
So
I
kindness.
don't.
So that's a
Yeah,
value. Kindness is a value. So kindness is one. So give me two.
I want. Well, that's not. Hero can't be it.
Yeah, so the fact that
Oh, it had to be fun.
go
It
ahead.
had to be fun. Value. It had to be fun.
So fun. So
Fantasy.
kind. Sorry.
Fantasy.
So kindness, fun,
And fantasy.
and what was the third one?
Fantasy. It's basically almost like it's almost like I was thinking about when you call me the. I mean, what I value. Right?
Yes.
It's almost like branding, right? Or like you're branding yourself. I was thinking about
Well,
that.
a value really is what's important to you. That's what a value is. You know,
Right.
when you value something, it plays an importance in your role in your life. And
Right.
the
So
same when a brand has a value, it has an importance for you. And it's those values that you buy Apple over, Android. You buy, Dolce Gabbana over Levi's. Because something in that brand, that message is important to you, and they're selling that. So as a marketing director for Dell, brand was a huge part of my job in terms of building a brand around a product. So, it's what all a brand is what's important. So if you say kindness is important for you, fun is important for you, what would be a third one?
fantasy, fantasy, fantasy.
Tenacity.
No, no, fantasy.
Oh, fantasy. Okay, okay. So, sorry, fantasy. Okay, so fantasy. So there are three things that are important to you in values. So now when you look at what's important to you, you line up with in terms of, so am I doing things? Are my goals aligned with my values? So are the things that I'm looking to achieve in my life bringing me more kindness or showing me more kindness in my life? Are the things that I'm doing in my life, are they fun? Are they bringing more fun into my life? And the goals that I've set for myself, are they allowing me to sort of live out that fantasy that I want to live? Then the actions in between help you line up with those. So if you say to yourself, okay, well, if I said to you now, which is more important, fantasy or fun?
Oh, that is so hard. That is so hard because I wanted. Oh,
Or which is more important, fun or
uh,
kindness? Which is more, so if you had to switch between more kindness or more fun in your life, which would you choose?
wait, can you say that again? Kindness or
If
fun?
you had to choose between more fun or more kindness in your life, which would you have?
Kindness. That would be hard though. It's so hard though because I want to be kind to people,
Yeah.
but I want to have fun. It's so hard.
No, no. So this is what about setting your values. And this is when I say to you, uh, what is it do you want in your life? And that's a hard question because most people want what's on a surface. They want, look, I want my checks paid next month. I'd like my mortgage free for 2 years. If you ever hear people saying, I had some coffee with a friend of mine today, and she was saying, oh, I might win the lottery next week. It's just, but I don't want to win a lot. I don't want to change my life too much. I just want to win enough to be comfortable. Um, and I said, well, why not win it all? What? Oh no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to handle winning everything. And that's a mindset. Is the thing about it is the fact that they're saying, well, if I'm going to win the lottery, I want to win 100 million. I don't want to win like 1 million. But
Oh, okay. I just got it. I just got it. I just got it. You just bring a good point because I was thinking about why can't we? The universe is not based on, but we put limitations. Then why can't we combine all of that fun and because I wanted to do in an interview, right? Oftentimes when we see people do interview, it's kind of like
yes,
professional. I want to be professional. Sometimes I do the interview and I make it fun, like crazy, like blah,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I do. I see that. Yeah, I've seen your videos. And I'm saying, I'm thinking, oh my God, he's very scary. Look, he's shouting. But I understand that. But I think the thing about values is that when you know what's important to you, then you see more evidence of that in your life. When you're unsure of what's important to you, now remember, a lot of our values come from childhood, but also a lot of our values now become beliefs because we've had them for so long, they're now a belief. So when we say beliefs and our values are the core of who we are, at the base of who we are in terms of our mind and our physical being, as opposed to our inner being, our values and our beliefs are at the core of that because we are really we are driven and by our mind. Everything that we have experienced and learned is it's like our own internal Google. And one of the things that after working with Eckhart Tolle for a while was learning the fact that like we're not our thoughts, you're not your mind, you're a conscious awareness of everything. So you are separate to all of that. But for a long time, I thought, well, everything I thought and my mind and my thoughts were all part of me. And I'm saying, well, actually, no, they're components of me. Like, I'm not my heart, I'm not my arms and legs. And I think when you start to understand the fact that the thoughts you have about something can all be changed, your values can be changed. If you think that it's more important for you in your life right now to have more fun than to be kind, well, then you move that up. If it's important for you at the moment to be more, to have more fantasy in your life than to have kindness, well, then you move that up. If it's important for you to have more money in your life, well, then you move that to the top of the list. And then
Also,
therefore, your values are all changeable. But a lot of times we don't decide to change the values. We say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or we don't know them. And when you know what's important to you, then everything that comes to you is in alignment with that, because then you start to see, oh, it's important for me to be able to write a book. So for me, once I set that intention, and that was an important value, I set a goal then to write a book. Everything showed up because the universe brought everything to me because I had it all lined up. But when I have a goal of writing a book and I don't have a value of any type of content, and then I'm not really doing the work, well, the law of attraction is going to bring me that mixed response.
can I say something, Michael? Can I say one
Yeah.
thing? You're incredible. Like today, like you just changed my life right now. I was like, wow, okay, so we can change now. That yeah, okay,
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Listen, I've changed many times. Many times we can change. You know, we're not what we think about. Our mind is an instrument for our use. It's not who we are. It's an instrument for our use. It's like our heart is an instrument for our use, like our arms. You know, if we didn't have our arms, we'd find other things, you know, instead of arms. You know, people have, you know, no arms, people have no legs. They find other ways of getting around in their life and using their life. Um, and so it's about saying the fact that I'm not what I think about. I'm not my mind. They're just parts of who I am. I am greater than all of those because I'm the awareness of everything. I'm the awareness of my life. I'm the awareness of my past and my future. And that's why you will always feel your very best in the present. When you are in the moment and you are focused on that moment and that moment, in that moment, everything is right. It's when you start thinking and you think, you know, oh, I did this last week or I have to do this tomorrow. That excuse the French, fucks you up. Because that then it starts your mind jumping into the future. And when you're jumping into the future, you're jumping into the narrative of the fiction of what's going on. So you might, I have to do a job interview tomorrow. So now you have the job interview, which is the fact you've got a job interview because you've said, I want more money. Law of attraction has responded to that saying, here's a new job. And therefore you decide to say, oh, actually, well, I don't want a new job. Well, the job is part of getting more money. And so you decide, now you start to think about, will I get the job? Oh, I don't think I'm good enough, or maybe I'm not qualified. Then you start building this whole soup around the fiction of what's going to happen, as opposed to saying, life has brought me this opportunity. I've asked for more money. These opportunities are all coming to me because of that ask. And I'm going to line up with this because I know when I go here tomorrow, if this is the job for me and this is the one that's going to give me more money, I'm going to get it. And if this job is not going to bring me more money, but maybe it's going to bring me the experience I need and the interview kudos to be able to get that job I know that's coming in 3 months' time, but I don't really know, but I know life has planned it for me, that's going to give me that experience to get that opportunity. Well, then therefore I go for it. But a lot of times people, then they go for the job. I didn't get the job. Oh, well, that didn't work. They don't realize, are not patient enough to wait to say, listen, something from that has given me the opportunity to move forward, whether that was a lesson learned or experience or a contact.
Well, I mean, yes, you're absolutely right. I would watch this one woman. She would say like there is no job opportunity out there, but in my mind, I was like, there's tons. It's just that you haven't seen it yet. Like
That's
if someone gets, you know, I used to because there was a book. I think that oftentimes too that we need to have the skill set too, to be able to, because
of course.
because oftentimes when you like go to either get an interview, a job interview, it's still also a marketing and selling yourself. You're trying to enter the door, right? And most often time we don't talk about that in the law of attraction sometimes too.
Correct. Correct.
Because
Everything you have to. It's like this is a conversation I had a couple of weeks ago at another at a meeting with business execs, and we were talking about the power of competencies. In terms of people's competency to do a job and their skills, their ability, and their knowledge. That's what competency is. If you're competent, you have the right skill, you have the right knowledge, and you have the right ability. And every job we do will have some deficit in some of those things. We may not have the knowledge, we may have the skill, we may not have the ability, or we may have the ability, we may not have the knowledge. There's always going to be some deficit. And that's where your belief comes into play, in terms of saying the fact that if you start to disbelieve in your own ability to be able to learn something, because we all have the ability to learn, and we all have the ability to read, and those things that they make us competent. So if you don't know how to do something, you can learn it. Everything is available today. There's no reason why anyone should not be educated in the world today to some degree. But what it is that a lot of people want to put in minimum effort for maximum return. They don't want to put in the hard work. It is hard. You've got to get in there. You've got to do the hard work. And I talked to, a group of salespeople a couple of weeks ago about, creating a sales, ethos for themselves. And I'm saying it's hard work. Customers have got so many different people asking them to buy from them in so many different ways, whether it's through social media or it's direct selling. So the demand on their time is more than it ever has been. So how do you show up? How do you present your product to them in a way that shows them that it's going to be a better solution for them? And I said, but it's hard work, because the likelihood is you're going to get 10 no's before you get one yes. That's the statistics of it. But if you're not prepared to get those no's, don't get into sales. But don't get into any business. The same with social media. You're going to get a lot more no's before you're ever going to get yeses.
well,
That's it.
sorry about that. That's quite true. My journey of trying to interview at first I wanted to, because I set my goal really high, because I look up to Bob Proctor. If you have not heard of him yet, but I look up to him a lot.
Yeah.
Like, his information changed my life. Like when I read his books and I watch his, you probably know. So I set my goal really high. That's one of my fantasies. That's because I
Okay.
want to interview lots of people that's who I want to interview.
Yes.
This is not based upon just a niche, not a law of attraction or personal development.
Yes.
Everyone, I
Yes.
want to know their thoughts and how they
Yes.
think. Um, and I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, but the whole process.
But to say to you, Johnny, in terms of the fact that you had to start somewhere. There
Yeah,
was a
yes,
day you
that is
woke up.
true.
There was a day you woke up and said, "Today is the day I'm going to start."
That is true. That is true. We have to start. That
Yeah.
is true.
So you have to get out of the fantasy to say, "Okay, today I'm going to start. I'm no longer fantasizing about interviewing these people. I'm going to start today."
That is
And
true.
once you start, then you use that place of starting to move to the next level, to move to the next level, to move to the next. If you don't start, you never get an opportunity to win and to succeed, but you have to start.
But what you said is true. That's what my message for like. I don't know if you know Seth Godin. If you're into marketing, Seth
Yes.
Godin's great. I
Yeah.
love him. The you are right though, because but the thing is, when I started just like everyone else, I got many rejections.
Yeah, of
I was
course.
out of like the union, and it was not easy. It hurts. I was like, whoa, you don't need to like be like that. I'm just asking you if I can promote your product. At first, it was trial and error, right? I
Yeah.
don't know how to. At first, I was coming from a place of what I want.
Yes, of
But
course.
instead of coming from what I want, I figure out that in order to get what I want, I need to promote help what the author or whatever to get what both ways, right? Work, and I found that out that it's still a negotiation. When I send an email or ask you or Twitter authors, it's still a
Yes.
negotiation, and I never had that negotiating skills until I figured out how to negotiate and try to close the author to get on the interview. It's not easy.
Yeah, of course, of course. And you will get, you know, it's like everything. The fact is you'll get more no's than you will get yeses. But that doesn't, just because someone said no doesn't mean that they don't want to do it. It's just that you don't know what's going on in their life at this moment in time that it is disallowing them to do that. I think the fact that, so I think that is something, the fact that if you have done all of the effort that you can do to win business, well then therefore that's all that could be asked of you. That you can only focus on what you can do. You can't focus on what the other person, how the other person responds. Focus on, well, I've done everything I could and presented my case in the best possible way. So therefore, the results from that will be the results from that. You know, focus on, it's the thing, and I learned this from it was Oprah talking about this a couple of years ago. She was talking with Deepak Chopra, and they were talking about the outcome. And the message I got from that was, release yourself from the outcome of what you want. Do the work to the best of your ability, but then release the outcome to life. And if it comes back to you, it was for you. And if it doesn't, it was, you had to do the work in order to learn something else. So that's the one thing I've learned to do in my life, because coming from a corporate world, everything was outcome oriented. It was always about, you know, achievement and targets and sales and barometers to hit. And now that I live my life very differently, I've released the outcome to many different things. I enjoy the work that I do. I live in a lovely island in the Canary Islands, just off the coast of Africa. And I travel, I go to many different cities, and I release the outcome of any of the work I do. I write my books, and if they sell, they sell. If they don't, they don't. But I enjoy the writing process. I enjoy writing a book that people will read, that will help them in their life. And I do my conversations and I do my talks like this to explain to people in terms of the fact that you can be down, you can be out, but you can also rise up quicker than you've ever done before. And I use myself as an example of that.
Yes, sorry, but you're very good though. Like, you're the absolute first person to actually, I mean, interacting with an interview, like go back and forth. I mean, I have done that, but this is like pretty cool. Like,
Yeah, well, that's good to you as well, the fact that, but I think it's the fact that is that um, I think when you have two people who are passionate, we're on a similar page. And I think when people are on the same page, the conversation is easy.
yeah, yeah. But thank you. But also, I'll also, because I know I still want to touch a little bit deeper subject, because
Yeah,
there's so much things that I want to be able to improve our the world. I know that that's one of my passion. I want to improve the world, but I need to start somewhere, like you said.
yes.
The the suicide is one of the big things that I want to touch on, because I keep talking about how, how can we, what can a person do if either, their loved one or someone's going at that moment, or you, or no, I mean not you, but you, the person.
Yeah.
Like, how can, because we all been feeling, how like.
So I think the fact that I think, you know, the scary thing is like, and I think I tweeted this out last night from the World Health Organization, is that every 40 seconds someone commits suicide. And by 2020, that's to go to 20 seconds. So if you think the amount of people that have died just through suicide over the last hour that we've been talking, it's just dreadful. Where it used to be middle-aged, used to be my age group, it's now your age group. It's now sort of like the late teens to middle 20s that are, and the males that are the highest risk to potential suicide. I think that there is a couple of different things. I think the fact that, and I call upon my own personal experience, because, you know, back in 2015, when my own life fell apart, the thoughts of suicide came flooding back, because that was something, well, listen, my life is over now. I'm 50. I've lost my job. Not that I've lost my job, but I've given up my career. I don't want to go back into that world. I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in investment in business. There's nothing else for me. And I had to fight for a long time those thoughts of, die. I went down to one of the beaches here where I live, sat on the beach and was ready to walk in to kill myself. I had my own awakening at that time, which is where my book came from. But I think in terms of the suicide, when you're that down, I think the fact there's nothing, no one can call you back from it in that moment. You're in a moment where you've bought into the fiction of the problem you're in. So whatever your thoughts are around that, and most people who are coming from suicide have normally sat in depression for a long time. You don't wake up today and be nice and then tomorrow think, oh, I'm going to kill myself. It's not that short. There's a process to get to a point where you're down. It's like you're up here and you gradually go down and down and down and down and down. You hit depression. So, and in my book, I call, there's a chapter in it called, we become our emotions, and we become that depressed person. And when we become depressed, we disconnect from the world. We disconnect from ourselves. We disconnect from hope. And all of that is like plugging ourselves out from everything. We're just, if you think about your house is lit at night and all of a sudden you go around over a period of weeks and you're just turning all the switches off, you're literally unplugging yourself. And the more you unplug yourself, the more disconnected you come and the more hopeless your situation becomes in your own head. Remember, you're in this theater of one. You're witnessing everything that you're thinking about, and every problem you have, all those thoughts, you believe them to be true. And the thing about thoughts is the fact that they're not even real nor true. They're just information. We give them truth. We think, oh my God, no one is going to love me. That's a thought. That's not true. It may not even be real, but we think it. And because we think it, we actually then start to act on it. And then that creates that feeling of sadness around us. And we get to the point where we don't want to wake up tomorrow. I remember when I was 23 and I attempted suicide, I went to bed and I took a lot of medication. And, the fact that I woke up the next morning, thinking, oh, hell, I couldn't even kill myself properly, adds to the struggle. No one could have saved me from that because I was going there regardless. And I remember people say to me, look, if you get down, call me. And I'm saying this, when I get down, I'm not calling nobody. I'm exiting the world. So I understand from that part, it's very hard. And I think the way you change that suicide statistic is you change it before it even gets there. Because once you're there, you're committed. You have bought into the fact that life would be so much better with you not in it. Your friends would be so much better with you not in it. Life would be for everybody with so you've convinced yourself, you've told yourself this story for such a long time now, it becomes your story. It's like as I said, you're starring now in this story of life would be so much better. And that brings you deeper into depression. But I think the fact that talking about suicide in a way, the fact that helping people understand the fact that what they're thinking about and the life that they have and the life they could be had are all different. No, they're all different. We buy into this whole thing about what we think about. And that's why I talk about Waiteba. What you think about, you bring about. Because if you think about something often enough, it's likely it's going to manifest into your life. And it's allowing people to
whether sorry about to cut in, whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah, positive or negative, absolutely. What you think about, you bring about. If I think about something that I'm not good enough, I'm never going to wake up thinking the fact that I'm better, because you will never be greater than what you think. You will never be greater than what you think. If you think you're no good, don't be surprised if you don't feel good. If you think you're a failure, don't be surprised if you feel you're a failure. And that's the whole thing. The power of what we think about is the catalyst, because as I said before, the thoughts and beliefs are the power in our life, and our thoughts are what we think about and what that thinking has caused us to believe. So when you think about what do I believe today, beliefs have caused wars. They're still causing wars, in beliefs. I grew up in Ireland, and we had the whole Catholic and Protestant wars and the IRA and all of this, bombing each other because of two different religious sects. But I think for suicide, it is about getting people to earlier on in the conversation and getting them to talk about their lives. So you do see somebody going through a state of unwellness or mental wellness, and that's why the conversation around mental health is so important. Is that because 90% of people who are committing suicide are coming from mental health, like depression or drug addiction, or some form of substance abuse. They're the category that are at risk. And you know, it's interesting from the World Health Organization. I think nearly 30% of suicides are coming from in the world are coming from Asia. So that's another interesting stat, how that's all changing. But I think
there's definitely higher in Japan. It's definitely higher in Japan.
Yes. So I think the fact that.
But I'm in America though. I'm in America. It's still worse. It's still worse. Because we have massive shootings. I wanted to make that aware in America because that's terrible. Like it breaks my heart to hear that all the time.
Yes.
But yeah, go ahead. So I'm sorry.
No, but I think the fact that if you know, so I'll be a little bit controversial on this subject which I am. I sort of get slammed on Twitter when I talk about suicide, and I talk about it in a positive way, because the way the law of attraction, and I sort of like use it as understanding there's an undercurrent in everyone's life called the law of attraction. The law of attraction is always responding. So the best way that you can help feel better about your life is offering yourself some form of release and relief from struggle. And so if you think the fact that you're going to die or there's a potential that you could end your life, there's sort of a relief in that. The fact that the struggle can be over soon. And in that moment of relief, that you can possibly hear something that can change your mindset to move in a different direction. So when I had my thoughts of suicide and things like that, there were moments where the idea of killing myself was greater than the death itself. And so therefore the idea, if someone could have gotten to me, they could have maybe convinced me that maybe there was another option. Because when you start to give up, as I said, you give up on the outcome, you release the outcome, you feel much better. If you know that you didn't have to get up tomorrow for work, or you didn't have to pay your bills, and you release that, there sort of is a sense of freedom in that. And it's not that you don't have to pay your bills. The fact that Louise Hay has this thing about, you know, love the bills that come into your house and offer them love and affection and things like that. And that's a hard thing to do when you've no money and you see a bill coming in. You're going, oh, going to love this bill. But it's about knowing the fact that giving yourself an opportunity to be released from the pain. And once you're released from the pain, you sort of like move a little bit. Your energy shifts from that dark place to slightly, not white, but maybe slightly gray. And there's an opportunity for you then to move forward. But I think the fact that a lot of people don't realize how they can move from being depressed to being not depressed. And a lot of people just don't want to be depressed. And a lot of people use the word depression when they're having a bad day. Depression's not having a bad day, believe me. You're depressed, you know it, and you know it for a long time. So that's a big thing for a lot of people, is in terms of the fact that, I think, is that me phoning myself? But I think a lot of people don't give themselves the opportunity to recover from a crisis in their life, and give themselves the opportunity to listen. It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to have a bad year. But look in terms of, am I focused on, you know, getting better? Am I focused on staying bad, staying unwell? What am I trying to do today? And I know that when I talk about this in my day for about 6 months, every day, my job today was not about making money, not about writing a book. It was trying to feel better today than I did yesterday. What can I do today that can make me feel a little bit better than I did? And every day then, what I did was I used that opportunity to launch onto the next day. And then tomorrow would come and I would use that then to move on to the next 10. Over all of a sudden, I started to feel pretty good about everything in my life. Now, when I looked at it, when I look back and think, well, I bloody had nothing, and everything was going wrong, but all of a sudden things started going right, because my only focus was feeling better today. I wasn't looking at how much of the book I had written. I wasn't looking at how much money I had in the bank. I wasn't looking at relationships. I was just looking at how do I make myself feel a lot better. And you do that in a couple of ways. Exercise, get out and exercise, because depression wants to keep you stuck away. So you won't want to get out, but it's not what you feel like doing. It's what you're capable of doing. And there's a difference, because if you're depressed, you feel like doing nothing, except probably eat, or drink or something like that, because that makes you feel that little bit better, because it numbs your emotions. So get out. So it's what as I say to myself, I know I don't feel like doing anything, but I know I actually am capable of walking down the road, because I've got 2 legs, I've got an arm, and I've got a body, and I can walk, I can hurl myself down the street, even kicking and screaming. And many of the days I pushed myself down the road, because when you go walking, you give yourself the opportunity to release endorphins. And endorphins are that naturally feel good, emotion. The chemical, the charged neurons that we release into our bodies. The other thing is the fact that is to eat well, to eat healthily, and eat on a regular basis, because that releases serotonin, and serotonin lives in our gut. You then have oxytocin. Stay in contact with your friends and family, and your loved one, because they're very important, because that sort of like that relationship with your friends and your family, especially if you have a loving partner, releases oxytocin, which is that, nice feeling when you're with friends, that feeling you with loved ones and family, that feeling is created through the release of oxytocin. And then imagine your life being better, which is how dopamine is released. It's like when you think, you say, I'm going to go out tonight and I'm going to have great time with my friends. That is that dopamine is released when you have those types of ideas. Like someone gives you a chocolate cake and you go, oh my God, that chocolate cake looks gorgeous. That's dopamine being released. So there are many ways that you can do without having any type of medication for any type of mental illness. There's many ways that you can teach yourself. And the other part of that is cognitive behavioral therapy, is in terms of that 90% of the problems we have are how we're responding to the thoughts that we have. And so that there are key ways that you can actually help yourself. And there's 2 questions I always ask people in terms of how do you live better, and what is your role in making your life better? If you can't answer those questions, well, then you need to sit down and answer them for yourself. How do I live better? And what is my role in making my life better? What is my role in making my life better? And if you don't think you have a role in making your life better, well, you're going to find it out eventually, whether it's today or in 10 years' time, because we all have a role in making our own lives better.
Thank you for that. And but also, I want to ask you, because I think you saw it too when you're down of your lows, right? Because I noticed this. I don't know if this happened to you, but I think I probably would say it probably did. Um, every time your lowest lows, when you're down the, I think most of the law of attraction people saw this too. When you're on your lowest low, and that's your tipping point, right? It's your tipping point when you're like this, very low. But something happened, and then your life becomes so much better. You like somehow, right?
Yeah, right. Yes.
Yeah, like this thing shoot up. That means you like all the good things happen to you.
Yes.
Have you noticed it in your life?
Yeah, absolutely.
I noticed it in my life.
I think it's when you start to, I think there is a sense of that when you're down as low as you can get, you let go of everything, because you listen, I am at the bottom. I have hit the bottom of the ocean, and in that, all expectations of you are released. You're not expected to be better. You're not expected to be good. You're not expected. There's no expectations attached to anything. And so with that, you've released the outcome of everything. And that then gives you freedom, because you have nothing to lose and you have everything to gain. It's when we're in the middle and we've got something to gain, but also something to lose, that we're in this tug of war. Well, if I do that, I could get that, but I could lose that. And we're in a tug of war. So therefore, we're attaching everything to an outcome. We're saying, listen, if this outcome happens, well, I'll be able to do this. And so by saying to yourself, by attaching yourself to outcomes, you sort of you get into that mouse wheel going around and around and around. But when you're at the very lowest of your life, there's no outcome because you're no further down. You think I'm down and out, and the only way I can go is either exit or start moving up. And in that release of expectations is the fact that all you can start to do is, well, listen, I'm going to start rebuilding my life. And now, when I started rebuilding my life, and my lesson was the fact that when I was in my middle 20s and I had my suicide attempt, I rebuilt my life within space of 3 years. But what I did was I rebuilt it on a foundation that already existed from my past life, from my earlier years. And that was the wrong thing because that foundation wasn't good. So I had a new house on an old foundation. So when I get into my middle 50s, my new house fell down because my old foundation wasn't great. So what I did was 3 years ago, I dug up that old foundation and I said, get the hell out of here because I'm building a future on a new foundation based on who I am now as a 50-year-old man in my life and what I want my life to be. So I dug into my own roots. I took those old beliefs out. I took them and I shook them around and I actually looked at them and said, listen, you're the reason why I have done this, or you're the reason why this has happened to me to some degree because of you. I believed in this and I threw that away. Now, what do I want to believe about this? This is what I want to believe about this. Changing what I did, I took those things out. That takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, but I wanted to make sure the fact that problems happen to everybody, and the fact that there's nothing to say that in 5 years or 10 years time something doesn't happen to me in my life, but I know the fact that it's going to be on the foundation, the fact that of what I want in my life as opposed to what I had. And you got to remember that a lot of our foundations are built from the time we're babies. You know, 3 to 4 years of age. It's fascinating thing is the fact that is up to the age of 5 or 6, our beliefs have formed about life, our values have formed about life, and they very seldom change. And we take that case with us, and we travel with it right into the present day. And our life are operating on beliefs and values that served us when we were 6 or 7 or 8 or 9. They don't serve us any longer. And so therefore it's important to say, listen, if you don't believe in something, you will never have the opportunity to know whether you can or do something not. And what all new beliefs do, people say, why would I get new beliefs? Because it allows possibility to exist where it didn't before. And that's the key for a new belief. I want to believe this because this will give me an opportunity to bring a possibility where it didn't exist before.
I would like to put in one thing. I know that we're talking because we're talking about belief, right?
Yes.
I had this belief, like a very strong belief, and I talked this in my video. And I have most of the time, I come from a background. I was born in America, but I love being Asian, right?
Okay.
When I was growing up, my mom doesn't speak English, so I have to speak Vietnamese. So I come from a background bilingual, but it's like now I'm okay. So my whole thoughts were on if you know kung fu, like Jet Li or Iman, right?
Yeah.
Kung fu and just the Asian culture because I love it, right? But I remember I was in boarding school. Uh, me at that time I was with my ex, right? We were sitting on the bench
Yeah.
and we had an argument. It was at that time I'd stick to that thought, right? And I thought to this day I thought it was silly, right? Because there's no need to do that. So cause she was Asian she was born from another country, but she
Okay.
came to America, right? So she told me that I'm American. I hate that word. I hate America.
Okay.
At that time when I was like 19,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
neutral now. I'm okay. Like America's great, but I'm can be better. But the point.
That's a different conversation.
Yeah, it's a different conversation. But we were arguing back and forth. She's like, "No, you're American." I said, "No, I'm not American." So my thought was, I'm Asian, right?
Yes.
I'm like Asian, and
Yes.
but I was born in America.
Yes.
So that's like I hate it at the same time. So basically, now I have the love hate relationship with being Asian for one reason, because when I was a kid, I used to have Asian for life on my backpack, but
Yes.
now, because of the way that the traditional way of Asian thinking, it's like the corporate world, right?
Yes.
It's like education. It's like they're restricting your ability to have the potential to be great or to think better. They restrict you. You know, if we think about law of attraction, it's about possibility, right?
Yes.
But we restrict you in this thought of thinking that we talk about. You know, that's. But I let that go though. I let that thinking like, okay, I know that I'm American, but I can be Asian, so I put it together. I was like, okay, I let that go. Like
Yes.
the that we had are like either holding us back or opening doors to our like life.
Correct. And it's not that I call limiting beliefs. It's not every belief you have is limiting your life. Your beliefs are your beliefs, and a belief is just a thought that you said over and over again. You've heard it and heard it and heard it for long enough that you now believe it. So that's all the belief is, and not something that someone didn't invade your brain one night and gave you all of these beliefs. You've just heard it as a child. Unconsciously, you've absorbed this, and it has now become a belief for you. It's manifested into a belief, but it started off as a thought. You know, every belief is born out, has its origin in thought. So the thought about and had a thinking stream about it. Now you have a belief about it, and those beliefs they're like interlinked spider webs. You have one belief that supports another, that supports another, that supports another, that supports another. So when you try to get one belief, you have another one that comes up to sort of like, well, actually, you know, believe in this. So you sort of have to look at beliefs collectively, but you've got to look at beliefs in terms of what am I trying to do in my life, and then what do I believe about that. So if you and the law of attraction, you know, it's like and the teachings of Abraham Hicks, which I'm a big fan of. If anybody wants to check out Abraham Hicks, I'm a big fan of theirs. And Louise Hay and Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra. So big fan of all of theirs. But they when you look at what you believe in terms of your life, you look in terms of, do I want to do this? So if you have the idea of, say, starting your own business, if you have the well, I'm going to get the words right for this. If you have the wherewithal to think about it and imagine what that will be like, you have the wherewithal to bring that to life and to manifest that. Now, what gets in the way between the time we think of something, we have a great sense this could work. So you think about, you have an idea, you start to play around with it in your head, you start fantasizing about what this would be like, and that all works. Now you start to think about it in a way, well, can I do this? Now doubt comes in, your beliefs start to play in, your past experiences, have you done this before? All these things start to come into the situation, which is the fiction. So all this fiction, and so then all of a sudden we try to cognitive distortion, we try to rationalize this distortion. You can't, because it's mental. There's thoughts coming from all different sides and all different about different things. So the way you look at it in terms of, actually, the fact is I want to set up my own business, or I want to write a book, or I want to start talking, or I want to interview people. Now, what do I believe about that? What's my belief? And it's great. You might say, I have no beliefs about it. Yay, fabulous. I'm going to start because I have nothing. I don't have a negative, because most of the times you're on the back foot. You're thinking, oh, got to get rid of that bad one before I bring in the good one. Because there's no point, if you have a negative belief about something, the likelihood is the fact you put in a positive, you put in a different perspective. Your brain is like a computer. It says no all the time. You say to computer, the computer is used to going left, and you say I want you to go right, and say no, I go left all the time. So you then have to start, well, what do I believe about that? And then if you don't understand what you believe about it, what do I think about that? And what do I feel about that? I feel fearful. I feel, I think that maybe I'm not good enough, or I think these are all beliefs that will harbor your way, and they're going to limit your success in terms of how you move forward. So then you need to start looking in terms of how do I limit my distortion. I think I'm getting feedback.
It's okay. Yeah, yes, thank you. Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Because you're talking about you're getting feedback, and yeah, that's what my that's oftentimes we also a lot of law of attraction deal with fear because we have as we grow older we have lots of
Everyone's got baggage, and you've got to understand what baggage is not serving your life today. What do you take with you? You get up every morning, but you get dressed with your clothes, but you don't realize what you have also put on yourself before your day starts. You brought, every time you go into your job, you bring in all of your problems, all of your beliefs, all of your values. They all come with you. They travel with you, and it's about then asking yourself in terms of what rules do I have for myself? Because beliefs are just a set of your own rules. They're now become your own laws, your own personal laws. So you've got the law of attraction and you've got your own personal laws in conflict sometimes. My law that you may have a belief that says the law of attraction doesn't work. And of course, no one is going to tell you anything different because you're going, I don't believe it works. And the thing about beliefs is they're founded in information that's not necessarily right or wrong. There's no experiential evidence to show that this is right or wrong. If you look at any belief and you ask someone to say, well, tell me and explain to me why your belief is true, they will give you their own personal perspective. And that's all because a belief is true for me and it's true for you. We may have the same belief, but our truth about it will be different. Why you believe in one thing and I believe in the same thing, our truth may be very different because we've learned it in a different way. And so that's why I say, look, don't change a belief unless it's not serving the way you want your life to be. So, but in order to know what beliefs to look at, you've got to know, what do I want? What do I want to achieve? So if I want to set up my own business, what type of business do I want? What is it about this business that I'm going to be doing? Am I going to be at the forefront? Am I going to be in the background? What skills do I think I need? Then you start looking at the beliefs you hold around that and get it all down on paper. Start writing it all out. And as you start to formulate those ideas, the law of attraction and your reticular activation system will start bringing you more evidence to support your train of thinking. So if you start thinking, I want more ideas in terms of how this works, because your unconscious mind is like your own internal Google, and it has stored everything you have ever done. You retain it all. Your conscious mind is like you as a search bar. You've got the search bar. So you put in, I want to find out about such and such a thing. I often go, before I go to bed at night, I'm saying, listen, I'd like to be able to resolve such and such a problem. And I just give it to my mind to come up with a resolution. And likelihood within 24 hours, I've come up with a resolution to it. Because my mind has gone processing it. It's gone using it, it's gone processing the information. My reticular activation is now put as important. Information that's coming in is now going to show me. I might even get an email in from somebody, or I might get a message on Facebook that says, oh, actually, that helps me with that. So I never look for, I never think that there's never a problem to something. And nowadays, I just decide, okay, well, do I want to do that? And if the answer is yes, why do I want to do it? Is this of value to me? Is it bringing value to me? Is it bringing value to the people that I'm going to work with and the people that I love in my life? And if the answer to that is yes, well, then I'm going to do it. And then anything that's in my way, those obstacles, I'm going to try and clear them, because I know they're all clearable. It's like doing the 100-meter hurdles in the Olympics. You got to jump over all those hurdles. You're not going to win to get to the other end if you're going to knock 5 of them. But you may need to knock some of them out of the way. And that's the goal, is in terms of is knowing what it is that you want. Be clear on your intention. And so if kindness is something that you want to see more of in your life, have that as your intention, and I guarantee you will see more kindness to you and from you, because that is your intent. That is, your intent today is to be kinder to people and for people to be kinder to you. And that's how life works. Life responds to you. And if you're getting negative responses, the likelihood is the fact that is because of what's going on with you. You know, change happens on the inside first. It doesn't happen on the outside. But we try to change everything on the outside first. We try to change our appearance. We try to change how we talk. We try to change how we walk. We try to change everything on the outside. And it lasts for a while. You know, you go in and get your face lifted, you get your Botox in, you get your Spanx on, you look fabulous. You get all these things that are cosmetic, but you still look back at yourself. You still look at yourself in the mirror and think, you know, I don't like you. Because you haven't changed. You still haven't changed yourself inside.
That's the sound like the you remind me of the book. I haven't read it called Psycho Cybernetic.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because you're talking about that even if a person change, how beautiful they are.
They try to change everything outside.
Yeah,
And it
that's
doesn't, the change happens. And I learned that, you know, real change, and we're talking about real significant lasting change, happens inside out. And when you change on the inside, you know, it's interesting. Years ago, I remember when I spoke to my brother, I met my brother's girlfriend in London, and we were in Knightsbridge, which is a very prestigious shopping district in London. And we were in the Burberry store, one of the flagship Burberry stores in London. I said, look, I just want to go in and get a few things. And it was interesting when I was back in Ireland the last couple of weeks, she was reminding me of this conversation. She said, I remember you going in and you said, I'll have 4 of that and 3 of that. And there were these 4 or 5 sisters all coming. You bought luggage, you were buying a bag, and you know, you never looked at the price tag once. Everything was like, and I'm saying, yeah. And I bought myself happiness for 20 minutes. But once I was finished, the happiness was gone. And I found that I had to buy and buy and buy and buy happiness into my life because I wasn't fulfilling myself in anything I was doing, even though, and that's why I knew there was something else in my life now. But it was because if I went out somewhere, I had to be wearing some label of some sort. I had to be wearing some brand, like it had to be Gucci, it had to be Dolce & Gabbana, it had to be Prada. It always had to be some label. And nowadays, it's interesting the fact that I can go into the local store and buy a T-shirt for $1.99 and wear it to a conference. Because the value is different. I'm not seeing myself with a value with what I have. I'm seeing the value in who I am and what I have to say. And that's the difference. I felt that in order for me to show up to a conference, and I would speak in technology conferences, a lot of conferences, I would have to show up and I'd have to look impeccably dressed. I'd have to look a certain way and to be a certain way, because that was what I learned. That was how I was going to be accepted. And so now I'm more comfortable in saying, well, I accept myself completely as I am now. And so therefore the clothes I wear have little importance into how I show up in the day. Whereas before it was wholly important. I spent more time on how I looked than actually what I had to say. You know, so you get caught up in that because a lot of things are image and it's a brand.
very true. That is very true because because as I do as an interviewer, right? People often like think when you get into the world, you need to
Yes,
be professional. I disagree. I wanted to be a little bit different from a lot of interviewers because I
yes,
don't stand out. If I need to, because it's the purple cow, right? Purple cow in Seth Godin, he said, if you look at like a brown cow, right?
yes,
You look at first it'll be interesting,
yes,
but if you keep looking at it, it'll be boring. It stand out. One of my managers he told me this. Why don't you be normal? And I said, overrated. So oftentimes, when I know that they mean well, our friends mean well,
yes,
but they were giving advices from like, things like, because we're talking about how like you're comfortable in your clothes, right?
yes,
And you're in your own skin. That's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be comfortable in my own skin, whether I'm interviewing author or bestseller. I don't, it's not that I don't care. It's just that people often mistaken just because you dress something that doesn't mean anything. It's just that
It doesn't.
I
It
don't want
doesn't.
to get, you know, we can do an interview just talk like this, but
Yes, of course.
professionals, people think like, okay, you need to do that. That's my
Well, I
opinion.
think I think it depends. I think it depends on the audience. I think that even the corporate world has changed now in terms of culture, in terms of how people present themselves, and I think the fact that how people dress and the amount of money they spend on how they dress is a lot to do with how they want to be perceived, and how they and it's more driven from an ego perspective. So it's very ego driven in terms of they want to show up in a certain way because they don't want to other to see the vulnerability behind that ego. And I think the fact that uh, there's nothing that, and I still like nice clothes and I still like Dolce Gabbana and Prada and all of those things. It's just the fact that I don't allow them to define me. And that's the difference. Nice clothes are lovely, nice things are beautiful. We all want nice things, but they don't necessarily define who you are as a person, and they don't define what you do or what you don't do. And that was the difference. And there's a different perspective in terms of my own life. In terms of I can easily now get on a bus and go to the supermarket as get in my car, whereas before I would have never been caught dead getting on a bus. And I wouldn't have even know where to get a bus from. But the fact that that's a different context, because it wasn't about the clothes. It was the fact that I want to attach myself to a primary brand. I wanted to be associated with a leading brand. And there's nothing wrong with that linkage, but it's when it becomes a conditional dependency, which is another thing I write about. We come to conditional on you having these things. Your happiness becomes conditional on them being in your life. And then when they're not, there's a disconnect. And I often do this test with people in terms of, do you think that you have things in your life that are conditional on you being happy and being successful? And most people say, well, no, no, no. I say, so if you lost everything tomorrow, you're telling me that you would be okay with that you would not change a little bit. If you lost every single thing in your life, all of your possessions, all of your cars, all of your jewelry, everything that you had material, and you were left with just yourself, would you be okay with that? And that's where you think, if everything is, a lot of stuff is conditional. I enjoy having my 3 cars. I enjoy having my helicopter, or I enjoy having my dogs, or I enjoy having my boyfriend or girlfriend or parents or relationship, or I enjoy having my TV. Can you imagine the fact that your happiness? Can you imagine now tomorrow the fact that you had no broadband?
That would suck. That would suck.
Can you imagine you had no broadband? So we all have things that are conditional. So you've no broadband, you've no way of doing videos. So now, how do you live your life?
That's an interesting, because it's the same thing as phones too. That's
Same
the
thing
thing
as
about
phone. Same thing as
that.
phone. Same thing as phones, and we are attached to this. I'm going to give all of you a top tip for the best use of your phone. So if you want to remember an affirmation or an intent of something that you want to achieve, so it's what we're talking about earlier about white table, which is what you think about, you bring about. So if you want to put something into your mind quicker, because a new belief it starts off as a seed. So we have to become gardeners of the mind, and the way we become gardeners of the mind is we have to plant new seeds. So if you plant nothing, you're going to get nothing. So if you plant tomatoes, you'll get tomatoes. If you plant tomatoes, you get tomatoes. So I have to ask yourself, what are you planting in your mind, your unconscious mind, that you want to see bloom in the months to come? Now, the problem we have is we plant something and we look at it tomorrow, think, why haven't you grown up? Acorn, I put you in the garden yesterday. Why aren't you an oak tree? And the acorn is saying, well, it takes me years to become an oak tree. But it's the same with our beliefs. If you have a new belief, it takes time. But the way you started is the fact that we pick up our phone roughly about 150 times a day on average. And so what I suggest is write on a piece of paper what it is that you're looking to achieve, the new belief that you have. Say, for instance, like Louise, hey, I receive money from all avenues easily and effortlessly. Maybe it's a new belief you want to put around that. Take a photograph of it or do an image of it and put it onto your lock screen. And every time you open your phone, you'll see the message turn up. And it will be you will be feeding your unconscious mind every time you see that message. Now, don't put like, long words, just put, a short sentence of what you want. And you will remind yourself 170 times, 150. Some people are up to hundreds and hundreds of hundreds. I try to use my phone minimum during the day. And I have phone time and I have phone no time. And so, but every time I unlock my screen, you actually have to, you'll see the message. And you're unconsciously feeding yourself that information. So there's the top tip of the week.
That is powerful. Thank you, like I do, since I've been studying so much on the unconscious or subconscious. The subconscious is the most powerful thing that most people don't understand what they're doing to their subconscious.
Well, the thing about it, there's your unconscious. This word subconscious has come out of Hollywood. And it's come because of Freud had a conscious, pre-conscious, and unconscious. But literally, you have conscious and unconscious mind. Or if you want to call it your it makes no difference what you call it, as long as you understand. One is.
I understand. I understand where it comes from the unconscious and the subconscious. Like, I would want to
think of it this way. If you look at an iceberg.
No. I mean, like the reason why I said subconscious is the power of the subconscious mind. By Joseph Campbell. That's why. But then the unconscious, where it came from, where Sigmund Freud. I read it on the psychology where they.
So Sigmund Freud came up with the whole 3-point, but that sort of like has been changed. And so the whole thing of conscious, because you hear people talking about their conscious and their subconscious, and then you hear things about their conscious and their unconscious. For me, there's your conscious and your unconscious coming from a psychological perspective. So psychologically, there are two parts to your brain. There is your mind. There's a conscious, which is your cognition, your awareness. I'm aware of everything. It's like, say, for instance, your conscious mind is like a torch in a dark room. You have a dark room and you put on the torch. Once the torch is focused on a place, you can see it. When you move it away, you can no longer see where it was. You can see where it is now. But you do know that it exists. That's your unconscious. So your unconscious is aware of everything. But your conscious mind is where it actually has to focus. And that's why your conscious mind can get tired, because it can only take in 5 to 7 bits of chunks of information at any one moment in time. Everything else is your unconscious mind taking everything in into your mind and trying to bring meaning to it. And everything it interprets, it will delete, distort, and generalize. So as your RAS takes that information in, it does 3 things. It deletes most of it, it distorts a lot of it, and because it wants it to fit, and it generalizes. So that's roughly that, and that's roughly that. And that, because your mind is a meaning maker, that's all. It's bringing meaning to the data it's receiving. It's like a computer. You're feeding it data, and it's bringing meaning to it based on your experiences in your past, what's gone, and the programs that are running. And that's why if you've ever driven your car on a journey that you do frequently, you'll realize that you've driven for probably a long time without ever being consciously aware where you were driving. I've often driven and I'm thinking, oh my God, how did I get here? Normally, if I'm driving home from work, I will be driving, and all of a sudden, I've gone through I've gone through 2 tolls and not realized actually have paid and everything, and not realize that I actually have done that. That's your unconscious mind working. It's like an iceberg. If you think the tip of the iceberg is the conscious, and then the bottom, which the Titanic found out, is the unconscious, and that's where all of the work happens. And that is the engine of our life. That drives everything. Everything is stored. Everything you've ever done and experienced from the time that you were conceived is now a memory in your unconscious mind. You may not have a conscious memory of it, but it exists there and it plays out in our lives. Everything, every single thing.
Michael, can I ask you, like, where's this all, like, where's this? My God, man, like, my God, like
I've written 2 books. I've written 2 books. No, yeah.
no. Listen, you are one. Okay, so
I'm
you have.
53. I'm very old. I'm very old. No, no.
Yeah, but the thing is you give great information that can help a lot of people, and I was sitting there, I was like, my God, but because I'm a very curious person.
Yes.
About
Me too. Yeah, me too.
so like, where does it come from? Like education, like you, because I want to be able to impact the. Because I also want to talk about your book too, but
Yeah. But I've been doing this. I've been doing this. I tell you, I've been doing this, not this work, but doing this type of work for 20 odd years, because a lot of my jobs and my roles have been in development and in companies and leading people and helping them change their lives and helping them improve their performances in corporate world. And I get messages from people now that have worked with me years ago, thanking me for how I, help them develop in their lives, and good and bad. And I think the fact that I've always been fascinating in terms of, from that day, I read that little note, and that reality is a product of your thoughts. What you think about becomes true for you. That was the catalyst for me going into a completely different world, because I became very cognitive of what I thought about, what I gave my attention to. And when I even in my days today, and there's nothing, just being positive doesn't mean that you don't have negative thoughts. And that's the whole thing. You think people think, oh, well, he's a positive person. Obviously, no. And positive people have problems in their lives just as well as everybody else. Just because you're positive doesn't mean that you've got Teflon. You're not like, you're not like Iron Man, and you've got this shield, you're going to deflect everything. Life happens to everybody, and tragedy and death and circumstances, and all happens to everybody. But what being positive means to me is about how responding to something in a different way, and responding to something in a way that's going to be more beneficial to me and how I feel about it. So if I can respond, if someone's having an argument with me and I don't then have, and I choose to say, well, listen, I'm not interested in this argument, so I'm not interested in responding. If they think that they've had the last argument and they want to have the higher ground, let them. What's more important to me is that I feel good about myself, and this moment passes. So a lot of the times I let things just drop, because I'm saying I'm not going to invest energy into this discussion, because if they think they want to be right and they think that the law of attraction, say for instance, doesn't exist, that's their problem. I'm not here to convince them that something exists that they believe doesn't. That's up for them to believe. And they may come back to me and I say, listen, that's your choice to believe everything you choose. My choice is to make myself feel good about what I do, and that's what's important. And I think the fact of it is that when we learn from that, and my job has always been in work, and I think the fact that I was saying to someone recently is the fact that is what I do now. I've been in training for the last 30 years, so it's 30 years of training, and my information is not information I've acquired last week or last year. I've had this all the time, and I've used it in my own life, and I've applied it in my own life. And I did a talk last week, as I said, with these group of millennials, and I'm saying, has anybody ever told you that if you do this, you can get this? That's what it's about. If you do this, if you think about something in a certain way, you can manifest that over here. Now, the distance between here and here is called patience. And it's a lot of things people don't have, is the patience to wait from here to here. They want to, as I said, look, they want to put the acorn in the ground and then go out and criticize the acorn for not being a tree tomorrow. Why are you not a tree, little acorn? I put you down yesterday. You should be at least 7 feet tall today. And of course, that's the problem with our thoughts. The fact is we put in new beliefs, and we expect then the fact that to work out. We think, we think of a thought, I want a better job, or I want more money, or I want a better relationship, or I want to be more kind to myself. And then we expect that to happen tomorrow. You have to put in some effort. If you don't put in the effort every day, for about 6 months after I had my own awakening, people were asking me, what are you doing in the future? And I was saying, I wouldn't have the conversation. I'm saying, I don't live in the future. Ask me what I'm doing now. Ask me what I'm doing today, and I'll tell you I'm doing well today. Now I'm writing this chapter, and I'm talking about this, and I'm talking about that. Then they also wanted to know, well, my family and friends would say, listen, there's a great job being offered by, Intel or by HP or Apple are looking for a head of marketing for this and head. I don't want those jobs. That's in the future. Or what happened, when you were back in and all of this business? I'm saying that's gone. I'm telling you, I'm in today. Do you want to know what I'm doing now? They weren't interested. They wanted to know what went on, and they want to know, where do I think I'm going? They weren't interested in what I was doing at the moment. And then, of course, when I said to a lot of my friends, because they thought I obviously had a bit of a breakdown to a degree, that's their view of it. I felt I was just finding how do I go forward? I decided not to die. I wanted to get better. I needed to find that path forward. I knew the fact that I knew so much more than I did when I was 24, 23. I had a wealth of knowledge. So why could I not apply that and put that into my own life? Because if I couldn't put it into my own life and I couldn't change my own life, why would I ever tell anybody else to do it? So that's why I know what I talk about works, because I've done it myself. And my job was the fact that I'm only going to talk about what I do now. And when I said I was going to write a book, they just thought, oh my God, it's hilarious. And he's going to write a book. He has gone bananas. He's lost to the plot. And my second book comes out in September. And the sequel to Getting Beyond What Is comes out in January of next year, which is called Becoming You, is Someone You Have Never Been. Because a lot of the times when these books came to me all at once as one idea. They were an idea, this is what you're going to do. And the idea, the fact is, when we try to change ourselves, we become somebody different. And a lot of the times we get scared by this different person, and we tend to then run back to the person we were. So when you becoming you is saying, well, this is you, this is someone you have never been, because you're going to become someone you have never been. It's like when you're 4 years old, and then you're 20 years old, and then you're 50, you're constantly becoming somebody else, a different version of yourself. Every day you wake up, you have a different version of yourself showing up because of what you've learned. So becoming you is about, really getting into showing up as this new person. Who are you now? Who did you decide you wanted to be? I wanted to be a successful entrepreneur. So are you showing up today as a successful entrepreneur? Or are you showing up as someone who's not doubtful about their life, uncertain about where they're going? Is that the person that's showing up? So who's showing up today? Because the more times you show up as the person you want to be, the more that person will live that life. But when we show up in mixed, dimensions, the fact of it is that we then become confused in terms of who am I? And so if you want to change your life and to become, a film star or whatever it was, well, then show up as a film star. What's the attributes of a film star? What does a film star think about? What do they talk about? How do they behave? And that's how you start to change your identity. And because we're always changing, the fact that the person you were, 7 years ago, even 3 weeks ago, is very different. The person you will be tomorrow will be very different, because you learn something. Every day we learn something. And the challenge with a lot of people is that they don't apply what they learn today tomorrow. I do. If I learn something today, if I get a message and now I said, okay, or if something comes into my mind about how does such and such a thing work, I'll research how does that work. And I've always been a very keen thing about Fisher pricing stuff down. I always like to try and Fisher price it down. Do you have that word, Fisher price? It's like baby toys, breaking things down into like Lego in terms of small, meaningful bits of information that, okay, that actually makes sense to me. But I try to, if I learn something new, I try to apply that to my own life and see, does that work, and how does it work, and how does it change my life? And I've done this with my friends and family, and they talk about arguments with their families or arguing with their friends, arguments at work, and I'm saying, why are you responding to those arguments the way you are? Change how you respond, and then the situation changes. But we tend to get stuck in old ways of doing things because we're programmed to responding a certain way. So we respond the way we're always programmed. We have to unchange those programs. But you know, everyone can learn, and the fact that there's bags of information out there. And it was interesting the fact that a couple of years ago, I wanted to get these light boxes that I use for my back here. And at the time, I didn't want to spend a couple of $1,000s on good lighting. So I Googled light boxes. So I made my own light boxes for my own backdrop for $50. So I went up to my local store and I went and I said, okay, well, someone must have the same problem as me. But I didn't get stuck in, well, why the money thing about the £1,000 and getting these light boxes. I thought about actually, I'm going to make them. And so therefore, how do I make them? So I got stuck and thinking about how do I solve my problem about my lighting. And so therefore, I went and I bought, you know, cardboard, black cardboard, silver foil inside, light bulb. Now I'm not an electrician. I nearly blew the whole my house up one day trying to plug things up, you know, say, oh my God, where does this wire go? And I was following these people on YouTube. This wire goes in here, and I'm thinking, what wire? Which wire is that? And I was trying to find the same wire because, you know, things like that don't come easy to me. But I'm saying, well, I can learn this, and I probably watched the videos like a couple of hundred times. But all of a sudden, there's always a way to get around it. There are some things that you will invest money in, and there are some things that you will decide that you can do differently. It's like writing your book. You know, you can spend thousands and thousands of pounds on writing your book, or you can spend your money in a way. You can learn some things yourself, and then there are other things that you can do and say, listen, actually, I do need a good editor. I need someone to design my cover because that's not a talent for me. But there are other things, the fact that I can do. So it's learning what those things are, because everything is out there, and it goes back to the law of attraction. If you put the intent in, I want better lighting, and all of a sudden the idea of light boxes came into my head. I've never thought about light boxes before because I've never done, you know, videoing on myself and writing a book. I'd never written a book before. You know, as a marketing person, I would write, you know, bios and, you know, blogs and, you know, product information, but never writing a story from finish and having myself in it. But that all comes, and I talk about, you know, I think I wrote the first 10 chapters, and then I wrote the next 5, and then I rewrote the first 10 chapters because I became so good at it. The back 5 were much better than the first 10, so I had to go back and rewrite them and say, oh my God, that's not really good. So you learn as you go along. You know, everyone learns as they go along. And you know, that's how you move forward. But there are some people who don't want to put the effort into learning. They just want the outcome of the lesson. They want the outcome of learning. You're getting a lot of feedback, or?
Yeah, it's getting a lot of feedback. Yeah, it's getting a lot of feedback. Yeah. So, well, I think it's also the reason why a lot of still feedback. The reason I think a lot of reason why people don't want to do the work or learning is because they've been burned out by education or school. And
Yes.
because I ask a lot, because I'm very, like I said, I'm very curious by nature, and I would ask anybody just like why like you hate school. I hate school, but the reason why I remember anybody should check out the interview that I did with the property manager. He helped me to also piece together the interview because I was having trouble with the interview, like for interviewing authors, right? Because I thought at the time I had a conception, an idea that an interview is like a job,
Yes.
but it's different. But it's different. He told me the interview is a conversation between
Yes.
two people.
Yes.
And you guys should check him out. His name is crap. I forgot his Kelvin. But that's why I want to point out, like, you're very knowledgeable in your area of field, right? And people don't like learning, like, or like they would say, for example, I'm just gonna pick a book, right?
Yeah.
They hate reading books, and
Yes.
they would say this is a cost. So
Yes.
how can a person like love learning like you are?
Yes.
How can they adapt?
If you don't learn, you don't move forward. If you don't learn, you won't evolve. You don't move forward. So the people who don't learn stay stuck. So, and that's that. You know, I often say, if you're not prepared to learn something, well, then be prepared to stay where you are. You know, and that's the difference. You will move forward because in your reading, you are opening your mind. You're moving outside your comfort zone. We all live within what's called your frame of knowledge. So everything is referenced within this frame of knowledge. Now, unless you expand that frame of knowledge, you won't be able to grow. So some people have the same frame of knowledge they had when they were 5, 25, 55. The only difference is the experiences have added to it. So it's slightly expanded from their experiences. Every experience you have adds to that frame of reference. But unless you decide to learn more and more and more, you grow. So when someone gives you information, I was explaining this in a group and say, listen, so when your boss comes to you and says, I think you should do this instead of this, what they're really saying is the fact is that their frame of reference to this situation is greater than yours. Because they've been there, done that, worn the t-shirt. So they're giving you their experience based on their frame of knowledge. So when people don't learn, they don't move forward, they stay stuck until they learn.
This is so valuable. Oh yeah.
I won't charge you for this information.
But no, I still want to promote your book. I still want to promote your book. So, what's your message that you're trying to convey to the reader when you're writing, getting beyond what is? Can you tell us what do you mean by getting beyond what is, and how can what can the audience benefit from?
Okay, so I think the title itself, because I think I'm getting feedback. So if that's you or me.
Hold on.